as red. She's got the spices, smile so bright. Cooking with Judith right by my side. By my side. Chop, chop, sizzle, frying pan heat. From pancakes to a fancy feast. Cooking with Judith, fun to say the least. The least.
Hello and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Judith. And this morning I made a beautiful pan full of Char Siu. That's Chinese barbecue pork. I decided I'm going to make an Asian version of pork and beans. So I have some soaked beans, of course, the Char Siu. I have garlic, onion, various sauces, and we'll explain them as we get to them, and Dijon mustard instead of the hot, the Keen's mustard, the English mustard. So, beans have been soaked overnight. First thing to do is I'm going to boil them so we can cut down on the cooking time. And that will also remove the chemical that gives you gas, or at least most of it. So let me get the beans on the stove. So while the beans boil, and that was 125 grams of navy beans, which I soaked overnight, then drained, give them a quick rinse, and put them in a pot full of cold water. Then we're just going to boil those about an hour, maybe two, just to cut down the baking time later. So while those cook, we're going to make the sauce. Tablespoon of brown sugar. I am going to add a little zing with about a quarter teaspoon of ground Sichuan pepper, half tablespoon soy sauce, half tablespoon Worcestershire sauce, half tablespoon oyster sauce, half tablespoon ketchup, there we go, half tablespoon again, so I want a half tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Use a smaller spoon. That'll work. There we go. So again, half tablespoon of molasses. And not blackstrap molasses. You don't want the sulfur. So this is what's called fancy molasses. You could also put a little bit of honey in if you want it really sweet. It just adds another layer of sweetness. Although I'm thinking because we're going sort of Asian-ish here, maybe some mirin, but I'm going to leave that out. And 1 cup of vegetable stock. Actually, a whisk would probably work better. A second. Mustard tends not to want to incorporate unless you stir forever or whisk. Okay. So let's see how it's tasting. Still debating on the mirin. No. As I said, if you want it sweeter, a little bit of honey or a little bit of mirin, but I think that's just fine. And once our beans are cooked, we'll put everything in a casserole and put it in the oven. I'd like to use my little bean pot, but I think it's too little. And just a word about the Char Siu. This was 500 grams of pork butt, and I used a commercial Char Siu sauce. The list of ingredients to make it yourself is rather extensive. It's easier just to buy a jar. And at the end, I just doused it with a little bit of diluted honey. So it is going to be sweet and sticky, the way it should be. You do bake it at a fairly high temperature. I did 400 degrees for, let's see, 45 minutes. Marinate the pork overnight. I'll put a link in for instructions on how to do it using the sauce that I purchased. It's actually fairly simple. Just got to be sure you slice the meat the right way. Poke it really good with a fork so that the marinade absorbs in. Let it marinate. That's very important. I mean, you could do it faster, but you want the marinade to soak in. And as you can see, I already tried a chunk. It is really good and tender and moist. Not like if you're used to the Chinese barbecue pork on a fried rice or something and it's dry. This is not that. Just a quick aside. I did say that was 500 grams of pork, but this isn't all 500 grams. There is another piece that I didn't want to put in there because the bowl was a little small. So, yeah. It was actually a good sized roast. And I don't intend to use all of it in my pork and beans. Our beans cooked for 50 minutes. Now we're going to add half of a white onion and 3 cloves of garlic. I want to chop up some of that char siu. Give me a second. And I'm just going to chop this into chunks. Go. And that goes in the casserole. Go. I'm going to pour in our sauce that we made. And I know this looks like a very big dish for our poor beans, but they are still going to swell quite a bit. So we're going to cover, put it in a 325 degree oven for 2 hours, and then give it a check. Okay, that's 2 hours. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, looking good. Still has some moisture in there, so not dried out. Beans are feeling a little solid still. Check. Well, they're very nearly soft enough. Just a little bit of bite to them. So I'm just going to put them back in as is for maybe another 30 minutes. Another 30 minutes in the oven and ready to go. So let's dish up. On the side, I have some of the sliced char siu. And some tomatoes, just for color and acidity. And let's have a taste. Just the beans first, I think. Those are tender and wonderful, and not too far off the American version of baked beans. So let's try a bit of the char siu. That is wonderful. And these pieces are cold. They've been in the fridge. That's fine. They're going to be delicious. I'm going to mix my cherry tomatoes in there. It's a slightly different taste than your typical pork and beans, but it's still got the basic molasses, tomato, mustardy flavor, just with hints of Asian, although they aren't that strong. And the Char Siu is delicious. The pop that cherry tomato gives is absolutely wonderful. So the next time you make baked beans, surprise your family and friends. This is one of the best baked beans I've ever had. It's not so far off the Boston baked bean flavor as to be frightening. It's wonderful and delicious and so much fun. If you made it this far through the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your family and friends. Please try the recipe. Please leave a comment letting me know what you think. I'll see you again next week with another recipe. Thank you so much for watching.